Hello, fellow crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I will show you how to create a simple, modern greeting card using clear stamps and heat embossing technique. I was doing some home remodel, painting the walls in our apartment in a different color, and I was also looking for some wall art, and some of the art pieces that I saw online inspired the design of the card that I'm sharing today. I've already picked out the stamps and I have them laid out how I want them on my panel. The stamps I'm using are tropical leaves. It's an older stamp set from Simons Stamp, yet still one of my all-time favorites for summer. In fact, I recently shared another card using it on my blog. Another set I picked for today is Tiny Words, and I'll be using it for the sentiments on my card. I just love these little skinny messages. To simplify things, I'm using a mini MISTI stamping tool to stamp images all together and have the process go faster and smoother. I'm first going to stamp the leaves, so after attaching all the stamps to the lid of my MISTI, I'm removing the sentiment stamps. As I mentioned earlier, I will be heat embossing these, so I'm using an anti-static powder tool on my paper to make sure I will have a nice and clean embossed image. The paper I'm using is Neenah Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock. Having treated the paper with the anti-static powder tool, I've inked up the stamps with clear embossing ink from Simon, and I stamped them several times on the paper to have perfect impressions. I'm using Simon's Antique Gold embossing powder. I love the look of this powder on craft, and after I have the leaves covered, I'm going to heat set them with my heat tool. I chose to stamp all leaves at once and heat emboss them all at once to minimize the warping on my paper. As the more heat you apply, the greater the risk of the paper warping and becoming kind of difficult to work with. You can even stamp the sentiments and heat emboss everything in one sitting if you wanted to. But I decided to separate these two things. After the embossing powder was melted, I decided to add another layer of embossing powder over it to make the leaves a little bit thicker, I guess. You don't have to do this, it's completely optional, but I felt like it would help my card look better. I repeated the steps and once again heat set the powder to melt it. This time I got a better, fuller embossing powder coverage. It was exactly what I was looking for on this card. Next, I positioned the paper back inside my MISTI tool and arranged the sentiments the way I had originally planned. You can stamp these with a clear block, but here, once again, I wanted to stamp them all at once and heat emboss them all at once as well. Once again, I treated the paper with anti-static powder tool, then inked up the stamps with clear embossing ink, stamped them and covered with embossing powder. This time, I used the white detail embossing powder from Hero Arts for a contrasting look. You can also skip doing embossing on the sentiments and just stamp them in light brown, or keep them stamped in watermark ink for a tone-on-tone look. Now, one of the sentiments did not stamp perfectly, and it was missing parts of the letters. I didn't really want to re-emboss it, as on such a tiny image, there's always the risk that the image will not realign perfectly, so I just used a white Sakura pen and fixed the sentiments that way. To complete this card, I trimmed the panel down just a smidge and adhered it to a white A2 card base. Next, I added sequins from the Stay Gold and GALA sets from Simons Stamp, as well as some sparkling clear jewels from Pretty Pink Posh. I hope you'll give this idea a try. If you make a card inspired by this video, we love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We love seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Do hit that bell icon to be notified of every new upload. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!